Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good evening. Welcome back to another edition of our live show, Health Matters, on channel 347. And remember, you can also live stream on itvnetworks.tv wherever you are in the world. Missed any of our shows, do catch it on YouTube and also do request it if there's something particular. So we also have an email address. Our WhatsApp line will be open. Our live in-studio telephone number will all be open to you if you've got any questions regarding our topic today, and that is healthy lifestyle awareness month. And we're looking at throughout this month of October. I know 2020 has hit us with a bang, and have you made the decisions that you needed to do, whether it is your diet, your lifestyle, family life? What do you think you need to change? But specifically, we're going to chat about diet and what is actually in our food. That's one of the main questions we're going to be asking. In studio, we have our guest, our panel in black. and the young lady's got a tinge of pink. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Yaqub. Assalamu alaikum. And we have Elenia Kolokotronis, our nutritionist.
Thank you for having me.
Who specializes in women's health. I love that. So firstly, Dr. Yaqub, let's talk about, what Islam and the Sunnah teaches us about eating and our bodies.
Well, it's a very famous, well-known hadith. It's quoted very often, where the Prophet Muhammad said that basically you should portion your ingestion into three. So 1/3 for solids, 1/3 for liquids, and the other third you leave it empty. And if you look at that, it's like common sense, but it's something we tend to violate very often. And Elena will tell us the pitfalls of overeating. So we've been given good guidance on that, and we've quoted often whenever we talk about nutrition and healthy lifestyle from the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So Elenia, over to you as our specialist in the industry, and needing to understand what is in our foods. Do we really know what is in our foods, and possibly this whole hype about cancer and getting ill? Are our foods making us get sick, and possibly even, cancer-causing aspects, components in them?
I wanted to be very positive on the show today, but I think that, as human beings, we eat every day a couple of times a day for the rest of our lives on this planet until our last day. And I think that if we had a good food and nutrition system that was organic and natural and in moderation and environmentally friendly, we wouldn't be in the polluted, ill, obese, sickly state that we're in now. So a lot of the times people contribute illnesses to many other factors, the air that we're breathing, but the truth of the matter is that I believe personally that most of it is what we're putting in our mouth, because a lot of the time when we rectify that, we see how the person who has come to us for help changes. Their bloods change, their energy levels change, their appearance changes, and it changes for the better. So I think that our food, as much as what it should be healing us and nourishing us, is quite doing the opposite. That's why we're in the state that we're in.
So what we're eating is a big factor of making us sick.
100%.
Dr. Yaqub, on your side, seeing people on an everyday basis all the time, in your opinion, are the things that we are eating causing us to get ill?
Look, in the practice that we have, we see a large amount of non-communicable diseases, which are known as your lifestyle diseases, high blood pressure, sugar diabetes, gout, cholesterol issues, and of course we're seeing an increased incidence and prevalence of cancers. And if you look back into that, there's a major contribution towards that through the issue where we are overweight, obese, eating wrongly. So it's not just the quantity, but it's also the quality. And then again, people don't understand that if they could just eat well and follow the simple guidelines, and we've seen it in certain cohorts of patients where they're going to research programs where they are given only lifestyle and then others given medication. And you see the difference. And with lifestyle alone, big changes in the metabolic profiles and the outcomes that we see. So yes, we see it on a daily basis, and it's proven, it's scientifically, it's well documented that what you eat is exceptionally important. But we tend to sideline it because somehow we've grown up into this health system where we want medication, and it's a mindset that is beginning to change slowly when people say, I don't want tablets anymore, can I do something else? But today also I had a patient, I said, okay, these are the kind of lifestyle changes we're going to be looking at. And yet it was very difficult for her to even think about implementing it because of all the other commitments they have at work. Just taking a simple walk for 10, 15 minutes.
It's too much.
People are working 17, 18 hours a day nowadays. So there's lots of issues, but I think it's good that we can emphasize the importance of a balanced nutritional program.
Absolutely, and I did that very same mistake earlier on before we started the show. And I said, like, what can I take to improve my memory? And the first thing I think of is omegas. You know, I'm gonna drop a omega-3 pill or something. And you said sleep, part of lifestyle.
Rest a little bit more.
So when we are actually eating, and when we choose the foods that we eat, what should we be concentrating? Is it our brain? Is it our body? Is it the energy? Do we have to think of our age when choosing to eat what?
So when we're choosing to eat, the general consensus that we should be doing is to only eat when we're hungry.
Okay.
But most of us are hungry all the time for whatever reasons. We could be in a bad mood or emotionally dependent on a quick slab of chocolate. So that we have to be very careful in how we're phrasing that. But at the end of the day, food is there to nourish us, and if we could just stick to eating when we're hungry and eating foods that serve our bodies and in turn our minds and our overall well-being in good stead, that would be great. It doesn't have to be salad and rabbit food all day, but you know, the chocolates and the occasional burger and so on should be it should be the exception now and again. It shouldn't be the rule. So when we're looking at eating for ourselves and our family, the bulk of what you should be eating every day for maybe 5 days of the week should be nourishing good foods. They don't need to be feasts. They don't need to be a few lettuce leaves and spinach leaves because it's very depressing. But it should just be food that stands you in good stead, that does what it's supposed to do, nourish you, sustain you.
So reading labels is not the norm of the day when we go out and go and buy that cereal.
But maybe I should just add to that.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at children, right? When parents tell you my child has lost appetite, when they have fever and things like that, a child won't go hungry. It won't starve. And that's your natural inclination. So basically they don't know what is breakfast, supper and lunch. And perhaps we should get into that, is we should go into demand. So when you need a demand thing, then you eat. And you don't have to eat. So if you're not hungry at lunchtime,
Then
skip
don't
it
eat.
or have a little apple or
And if
something.
you've got energy,
I agree with the
keep
doctor.
going.
I don't eat breakfast. And then we'll
a new nutritionist.
I know, but the thing is, I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
You know, I only start getting hungry at about 11:30, 12. Whereas if I forced myself, and I have done it before, if I force myself to have breakfast, I'm nauseous till about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So the doctor's correct. I mean, I don't skip meals. I love food, but I'm just not a wake up in the morning, eat
yes,
kind
that's
of
your
person.
temperament.
I like what you've said. That
Very
makes
true.
sense to
Okay,
me.
I can kind of, understand where you're going. So again, you know, the label thing, when we buy foods, we're going to the shops. How important is it for us to understand what we are taking off the shelf and what is in there and to actually read it?
So I've had a few emails back and forth that were quite aggressive, that we don't know what we're reading, in all honesty. You know, obviously we're reading per serving, you know, so much sugar, so much total fats. But the truth is that, you know, people have become smart in their packaging.
Yes.
And I always say that if you're living a life reading packaging, then you're eating wrong. Because a tomato or a potato doesn't need to come with a label.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for the important stuff, it's difficult to really understand what you're eating because there's so many names for sugar. There's so many names. It's
I don't know
scary.
what that is.
So many names for preservatives, colorants, you know. They put there nicely traces of peanuts because it's being made in a factory, but we don't really know what else we're reading. It looks nice, and so we'll eat it.
And they've also become smart. So they know there's a campaign against the kind of things that they used to promote,
Correct.
where they used to just state exactly what it was. And now they've realized that there's this whole movement to say we need to go on to healthy eating. So they've modified it. So it's the same ingredient, but they're giving it a different name.
Correct.
And they've changed it. So they've also become smart in the way they're packaging and the way they're labeling.
I've actually
And,
heard...
and in many cases, it's misleading.
It is.
So I've heard a conversation once by somebody else and says they actually have workshops and meetings to try and take that word salt and sugar out of the labeling.
Correct.
So just for our viewers and to understand what are the different names that they are using when they are misleading us with hidden sugars and fat, salts.
So a good example is that they've become clever. So we've become clever ourselves now. We know that caramel, you know, is not great, and we know that rice syrup I don't know how that came about, but rice syrup is a sugar, and we know that there's
Didn't even know there was a
dextrose.
what?
We know that there's what's the other one that I love?
Fructose and
Ethyl maltodin, if I'm saying it correctly.
Okay.
All these very scary sounds, and you would never suspect that it's a kind of a sugar, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the worst of all is the high fructose corn syrup that's in everything.
What have you come across?
Similar, and
Yeah.
then obviously we don't look at these things often in our kind of practice because we tend to refer patients to people like Elena. But we pick up that from patients who come
Yes.
and tell you, look at this, what is this, and can you explain? So those are those that are very, very aware of things,
Okay.
but the majority are not.
Why not? Doctor's right, they don't.
We're going to go into more detail after the short break. Please do stay with us. We'll get to the codes and the E's and the numbers on your labels. We'll find out more about that after this break. And remember to ask your questions. What is really in your food? If you don't understand a label, please do interact with us. We'll try and help you out. Back in a moment. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. What are we eating? What is in your labels that you are buying on the shelves? Do you know what the E code is, what phosphates is, all those ingredients, how they sort of changing sugar and salt and fats to a different words? This is the time to ask our panel today. We have Elenia Kolokotranis, our nutritionist, and Dr. Yaku. But before we do that, we took that question to the streets and we asked everybody if they knew what they were eating. So just take a listen to this.
Yeah, I do actually.
Do you?
I'm actually vegetarian, so
Oh, wow.
so yeah, I have to. So yeah, that's actually what I do. So
I don't.
Because of diseases and stuff.
No, I don't.
Okay, you don't know what it is.
Yes, I do. Even the expiring dates, I definitely work on that.
Like me, actually, I don't just eat any food. I'm eating pap Monday to Monday.
well, yeah, it's supposed to be a normal lifestyle, for everybody. But then well, I would actually say that I would have to be vegan to actually be living the actual normal way, because vegetarian is just a light way of saying that, because I'm still eating things that are also, that have gluten and everything. So, yeah, no. It's actually just normal, yeah.
No, it's important. You have to look the food you are eating all the time. Yeah.
I think keeping yourself, the body active, it helps a lot.
Okay.
I know I don't recommend Tatazine. I don't recommend also there is one that is high on fizzy drinks.
Fizzy drinks, yes?
I don't recommend fizzy drinks to anyone who's close to me. I recommend also organic food. I hardly like, but at my age, because I'm athletic, I'm aerobatic, so I think my metabolism, it's good enough But I'll encourage people to also read the ingredients to identify if it doesn't have any cancer triggering ingredients.
It's good to eat a fresh food from your own house. The one you're making, you make sure about what you are cooking. Yeah.
Because recently we have like fake foods,
Yes.
like they just do something that we used to know.
Okay.
So it's basically it's very important for you to look at it. It's not about the price or whatever the value, but just to know what exactly that is going inside your body.
I'd say watch what you eat, honestly. You have to educate yourself in what you eat, and actually, because it's very important, we actually take things such as eating lightly, and it should actually not be a thing. So that's my actual biggest advice: watch what you eat.
So there we have it. Some look at the labels and some don't, and some actually, is quite concerned about what they eat. And some just enjoy pop and rice all week. Elenia, let's talk about that. So, some of the comments that they have made there.
Can I just say that,
Yes.
if you look at it, other people have done this. They've gone in when they were doing research. They were busy investigating the research where garbology, where they go through your garbage and they try and see what the general
No.
population eats.
Okay.
Yes. They weren't as knowledgeable. These people, it's like very impressive. I'm actually
Yeah,
really,
I
really
think so. I mean,
impressed.
they
Streets,
looked
yeah.
like they had a lot of insight into
They
it.
were
that,
really smart.
it's
I
almost
was
like you went to
surprised as
pick
well.
people in the street.
I love
Yeah,
that.
there was. I got a lot of like, no. When they saw the camera, of course, they shied away. But it was interesting that some had actually approached us and said, like, I want to say something about eating
love
and cancer
that.
and
That's
all of
very
that.
good.
That makes me
So-
really happy.
So that's what's really out there.
So happy.
So tell us, Elenia, now moving on to the labels, understanding the E-codes
Okay.
and what they mean, and what is really in these ingredients.
So we have to, so for example, anything that starts with an E, everyone says is bad for you, but they're correct 90% of what they're saying
Okay.
about anything that starts with an E. There are natural colorants for that they derive from turmeric and some saffron, but it's expensive, so they just make a
Okay.
chemical form. A lot of children are allergic to that, so you'll find children that have, the minute they have, so for example, slush puppies is something that has many E's in. Because it's all a whole bunch of different colors and the kids go
And
to the
there's no
movies and they
labels
put all
on
the-
there, yes.
There's no labels on there, obviously not. So you'll see they start to get red rashes around their mouths. They start to get red rashes. Children are very allergic to a lot of E's, most of them. They're colorants.
Okay.
So
So
that's
chemical colorants. that they
chemical
made of-
colorants, yeah. Very rarely will you find the natural one unless it's in an organic
Okay,
food
component, yeah.
or something that's in a shop that they're selling organic, and there's a sauce that's got a bit of coloring in, then it'll come from that.
So,
But
so
those are
Dr.
generally a bit more expensive, right?
Very.
Yeah.
And that's a limiting factor.
Correct. The doctor's correct. However, I will just say that for the last 10 years, an organization, I cannot remember if it was a Swiss organization or not, it'll come to me at 2 o'clock in the morning, because that's when I remember things I
You
forget.
should be sleeping.
Yeah, they did a 10-year survey
Yeah.
on if it's truly that much more expensive to eat clean organic foods. And it worked out something like, I think, $1 and something.
Yeah.
But if you look at it spherically, what you're making up with illness and hospitals and so on, I mean, in all honesty, I know that there are people below the breadline. I'm not saying go and, harvest a field full of organic stuff, but it's not the way people have made it out to be. It's like they're wanting us to eat food that's not good for us.
Are there times, Dr. Yakub, where people are having reactions and running to their local doctor because of something that they ate? Is it something that they will go to the pharmacy to go and seek help for, or do you hear about it afterwards? Does it
Look,
happen?
you have your common allergies
Yes.
like shellfish allergies and egg allergies. So those are like the well-known common ones. But the interesting thing that one of the guys mentioned, there was a tartarazine. We've seen an association between tartarazine and asthma. And we've seen a number of people, we just tell them keep away from those kind of preservatives. And the advice you give people is that, you've got to start recording what you're eating if you are known to have
Yes.
allergies.
Yes.
And then you look for the common factor.
Correct.
But to document a food allergy on the first instance is very difficult. So it develops.
So let's understand some of the items that do not have labels, like our fruits and our vegetables, our meats, poultry, sometimes even cheeses. How do we trust that they're real?
So I tell everyone that I work with that when you're milking a cow, the milk that comes out is white, so your cheese should be white. A lot of people disagree with me there, but I mean, it's common sense to me. So unless there's an certified organic certification on the product, or it's bio or it's organic in conversion, which means that the ground is not clean for 5 years of pesticide and chemical compounds, it's still converting, because the dirt, the chemicals sink into the ground has to, by means of erosion and wind and so on, has to be clean for 5 years before you can certify something organic. So unless they've got those, organic in conversion, bio or organic, it's not.
Okay.
It's just a fruit or something that's been harvested from a farm that 90% of the time is either genetically modified or has been sprayed.
So you don't really know.
You don't know,
Yeah.
you do. If it doesn't have organic on, then it's not. Unless
Okay.
it's on the side of the road and it comes from the person's small holding and they can assure you they haven't used anything. And also,
Okay.
we're smart. You can see if a fruit is too perfect. In my father's village in Cyprus, there's figs and pomegranates, and when we go and we pick them, there's little tiny cobwebs, there's maybe a little worm.
And they,
Whereas if you go to the farms closer to the city,
too clean, yeah.
it's too clean. There isn't one insect. So it's not hard to figure it out.
And also, you know, the fruit that are actually fresh, that are organic rather, and those that you buy. When we went to Zanzibar, my husband also said, these fruits are not that sweet, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just showed that what we were eating was genetically modified to become sweeter than what the real fruits were. So a question has come through, Doc. Someone wants to know, does MSG in snacks cause cancer?
So,
Elenia.
so the truth of the matter is that what they're finding a lot is that it contributes to why cancer would come. So that doesn't mean, and these are findings that are reputable companies that have researched, Lancet, World Health Organization. So what they're saying is if you're eating tartrazine sporadically, it doesn't mean, okay, in 5 years' time you will develop a type of cancer. What they're saying is that it'll go and it'll cause an obstruction or do something to your body that will in turn cause
Is it that sort of that cancer activating ingredient?
It's the same with obesity. So
you're saying it's contributing?
It can contribute, like carcinogenics can contribute, like eating foods in awful states, high fats, high sugars, high salt. And people don't eat this once a week. Most of the population eat this once or twice a day for 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Okay.
Over a period of time.
Over a period of time, correct.
So
it's
once
a constant exposure.
Yeah, constant exposure. I hope that answers your question. We do take more of your questions. Please do WhatsApp, call us live in studio. And if you want to interact with us, please do so via our email, healthmatters@itvnetworks.tv. But we continue with asking the question, what is really in our foods, just after this. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. This is Health Matters. What is in your food is what we're asking about to our nutritionist, Elenia, and Dr. Yaqub, our member from our lovely IMA. And I must say, we appreciate all the time and the effort these guys put in, alhamdulillah. We're trying to expand the crew, alhamdulillah, so we really appreciate the IMA and their team. So, you know, coming back to the labels and what is in our foods, people are talking about chronic diseases. Quickly, before we get to that, are there any products that we use that could potentially harm us as well with regards to cancer causing or make us ill? If it's the containers we're storing our foods in, if it's the cellophane or the plastic wrap, the foil, all of those things, do that contribute to anything with regards to us, you know, on our foods?
The general thought is that if you're carrying around a bottle of water and the sun hits it for a few minutes and you drink that water, you could get an illness. But the truth is that, I mean, unless the problem comes in, let's not beat around the bush. The problem comes when you're heating a certain kind of plastic. So you can heat a plastic to a certain temperature if it's BPA free. It's a chemical inside. A lot of the times, the problem comes in when you're cooking food in a type of a container. For example, microwave popcorn is one that is a no-no, only because the packaging is plastic, first of all. It's not BPA free. And also they've lined the inside with a chemical that looks like it's oily and fat in order to keep the heat inside. But they found that it actually is very bad for insulin.
Okay.
So what happens is, and the funny thing is, it's not even sweet, but people don't understand that. You know, a lot of the times I think that white bread's not sweet and it does nothing to my insulin, and you have to explain to them that's not the case. So it's being...
Big
misunderstanding, because they associate sweetness
to the taste of
and to sugar, but it's not always that.
No, the doctor's right.
There's no direct link.
But the major concern isn't so much your packaging. I know a lot of people will kill me for the environment. It's a big one. But my concern, and it's always been, and a lot of my research has been what's inside the container and what you're eating and why you're eating it. Are you having a bad day? Are you hungry?
No, you're hungry.
But so, look, generally these WhatsApp clips keep going around on social media about plastic containers and putting them in a microwave and that. So are you saying all plastics are no-no? Or so how would you know?
So usually
shouldn't you just apply a principle, no plastic?
That's what we try to do, and I prefer that. But it's very difficult to tell a family, say now with 4 children, don't have plastic. And also glass it's not a realistic achievement for a family with small children. glass is best, it's recyclable, comes from a natural source. But I mean, the best kind of plastic to have in your house should be BPA free, because then when it is heated, it's not releasing that chemical, that poison.
And
into
they will
the
say
food.
on the product.
It has to say it.
Okay. So someone wants to know, with chronic diseases, what foods do you eliminate from your diet?
Anything with a shelf life.
Okay.
Anything with a
Tins?
anything with a shelf life.
Wow. That's interesting.
If you have a chronic illness,
Okay,
it has
just
to be
fresh.
a natural. And again, people want to throw stones at me. It doesn't have to be organic, but
Okay.
you're only standing yourself in good stead. Your oils, if you can afford one
You
thing,
just- yeah.
let it be an organic olive oil.
Okay.
Anything with a shelf life, because you're eliminating most of the bad stuff already.
Okay. We spoke about cheese. So a question has come in with regards to cheese. What is the best cheese to eat? Would it be the, oh no, with regards to allergy, I'm 28 years old. I think I developed a milk allergy. Every time I have dairy products, I feel bloated, nauseous, and my nose runs. Is there any test that I can do to confirm this allergy? And is there any treatment for that?
Yes, so the doctor will also help me here. Process of elimination usually is what we do after they've done bloods to ascertain what's, perhaps they have an enzyme their body can't digest some of the dairy. They can try, there's amazing substitutes now. There's coconut yogurts, coconut creams, coconut milk, almond milks, cashew milks, goat cheese. I mean, there's a plethora of substitutes now. It's not like back in the day. But also perhaps to just check, you know, IBS's digestive system, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But
And
the doctor will...
So what is the process for the
There
allergies?
see an immunologist, and they'll go through a comprehensive assessment of the allergy. But she's got that kind of allergy, may have others too.
Okay.
And then there'll be a proper plan of management as to what to go
So the
through.
immunologist would direct him or her to the allergist to go and have the
Well,
test done?
immunologist, allergist is about the same.
Same,
They,
okay.
they play a dual role, yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's the cheese one. Is it okay to eat cheese? Which cheese would you recommend, white or yellow? Also, what is the difference? And is cheese harmful to your body? Is it harmful to use the microwave even to heat your food? That's a few ones.
There's a
So
few
cheese,
questions.
you spoke
Don't
about cheese.
Try not to use the microwave, and I know that, I'm not saying don't ever use it. Try not to use it for things like melting.
Okay.
You know, and preferably not to defrost, but we're always in a hurry now. It's difficult to take meat out from the morning to cook it at night. So cheese has to be hard and white, unless it's crafted, like, for example, buffalo mozzarella. Those kind of cheeses are fine to eat.
Okay.
Any cheese with a color is preferably not
So as white
okay
as
by me.
possible.
It's not going to kill anyone.
Yes.
But I mean, just remember what I said about the color of milk.
Okay.
So for me, a hard white cheese is
So
a
the
good
white
source
cheddars,
of
white
protein. It's a
Goudas,
good,
yeah.
yeah.
And what's your take on the link between cheese and allergies? We're seeing a number of sinusitis, rhinitis, people taking a lot of dairy products,
Yes.
and they're finding that the allergies, in terms of, especially now with the weather, and an exacerbation of this. Is there a link, or is it just an association, or?
I like what the doctors are. So we have that now. We had a week ago, a gentleman came with severe allergies. Funny enough, not to any glutens, but only to dairy, and hard white cheese didn't bother him, but every other type of cheese and milk and yogurt bothered him a lot. And we actually found that it wasn't really the dairy that was bothering him. He had such a bad pattern of eating. It was just white bread with the cheeses on, and chocolate spreads and cans of Cokes and 50 coffees a day. And the minute we changed that, we eliminated the dairy for a while. That's why I'm saying last week he phoned and said that he's actually had yogurt, he's had cheese, he's had milk, and he was too scared, but now he's happy, and his tummy's working, and he's happy. So a lot of the time it just could be that your digestive system is so compromised that it's just not happy with anything, not just dairy, but gluten, bread, for example.
Yes.
So
So it's just about digesting and your body wanting the good stuff.
keeping your gut happy, I think, is the right.
Well, it comes back to when you asked me in the beginning about what Islam says, right? So everything we've spoken about is moderation. And again, it comes, and we've said this many times on the show. So if you apply your principles of moderation in terms of what you eat and what you do, you'll go a long way.
Inshallah. So the question here is, with Crohn's disease, what foods can you eliminate from your diet?
Anything that's very acidic.
Okay. Fruits as well?
So it depends. It depends if they're on, obviously they might just be on a chronic medication or not. We have to look at a whole lot of things spherically. It's not, oh, you have to stop eating meat, you must stop eating dairy, you have to stop doing those things. It has to be, you know, you have to... Gradually, the level of one illness, even though two people might have it, is different for one.
So let's go through some of the list of the city, because sometimes we don't sort of understand what is out there.
A lot of red meat should be, red meat shouldn't be eliminated completely from the diet. It should be limited. So anything that causes the body to have an acidic reaction. So no one is 100% in alkaline, because if that was the case, no one would be sick. So everyone's slightly acidic, and to an extent we need it. But when you have an autoimmune disease or a disease where you have to stop limiting, alcohols, smoking, and here's the thing with fermented food, even though it might feed your gut bacteria and so on, it does cause inflammation in the joints. Not because there's anything wrong with the fermented foods, but because the body isn't really able to process the fermentation. So there is quite a few things that we have to look at, not eliminating completely, but certainly reducing salt, those kinds of things.
And with regards to fruits and vegetables, what are those? Do you need to cook it a different way? Because I know tomatoes.
If you cook it, it has So tomatoes is a tricky one. For me, anything that is picked from the ground or from a tree is good for you. I think that I understand that's fresh, maybe the exception, not the rule, but generally when you're cooking out a vegetable, you're losing a lot. You know, you'll keep the roughage, but you're losing most of the vitamin and the mineral and the chlorophyll content, and that's a pity. So
we talk more of what's in our food. Thank you so much, Elenia and Dr. Yacoob, and more of your questions after the short break. Please do stay with us as we continue Health Matters Healthy Awareness Month. Back in a moment. Welcome back. This is Health Matters, our last few minutes of the show. We're just having, you know, this rapid conversations, and the messages are coming through. So thank you so much for being part of it. Our WhatsApp line is really alarming this morning, this evening. So our live line is still open. You can call us live in studio. We have Elenia, our nutritionist, and Dr. Yacoob, our general practitioner. So vegan cheese is coming out. People are asking about heartburn, varicose veins, Crohn's disease, all these questions. We're going to try and get through as much of them as possible, and then I've also got my own. But quickly, I feel bloated if I eat brown and white bread. What kind of bread would you recommend?
I think that she should, or he should, just eliminate bread for a while, just to see if it could be something else. And if they have done that already, then they need to find the right kind of bread. It could be rye, you know, it's a process of trial and error or complete elimination.
I've heard,
eliminating bread is actually a good thing, even from your other diseases like diabetes, cholesterol, and because, you know, obviously things get converted to sugar.
Correct.
So, and also in maintaining weight. People that eat a lot of bread find very difficult struggle to lose weight.
Yeah. I've heard of many, you know, older generation, they've actually said, I can't eat bread, I just can't take it anymore. So that does happen.
So it's not we've been eating breads for since
ancient.
But the quantity
and the way they're industrializing the wheat is the problem.
It's really in that bread. Okay. Vegan cheese made of coconut oil, is it healthy? Is that the correct? I don't know if it's a comment or question.
I don't know.
Context.
It's okay.
Is it okay?
As my general
vegan cheese, is it coconut oil?
It's either soya or it's coconut and there's another one, and I've been trying to remember it the last 10 minutes. I can't remember.
I smoke and I'm on a PPI, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's for the acid.
Okay. Had vitamin B12 deficiency. What foods high in B12? Full stop. Thanks.
I don't judge anyone. I mean, everyone has their thing, but perhaps to stop smoking would be the step in the right direction for now.
Okay.
And then just try and up the natural foods, maybe a little bit more salad, maybe a little bit more fruit, maybe sit in the sun for 10 minutes a day with your face in the shade. It's not difficult, but I think also just maybe try to either cut down the smoking or just stop altogether.
And he also wants to know what are the foods
high in B12.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything that has good, like fish is a good one.
Okay.
Raw fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Because just remember, chlorophyll is the wonder,
Is the B12,
and that's
okay.
in any veg that's green.
Very green.
So
okay. Broccoli, spinach.
broccoli, spinach, kales.
How do you get rid of continuous heartburn?
Usually
Something that they're
people
eating.
with, and doctor knows, I'm sure, obviously, people that have a lot of heartburn are very acidic.
Yes.
So there's something in their diet
Diets.
that leaves room for improvements. And
Okay.
a lot of people that are also slightly dehydrated are constantly having heartburn and reflux.
Okay. Doc?
And there may be a physical component like a incompetent valve between the esophagus and that, so they have what a condition called reflux.
Okay.
Or sometimes they may be having a hiatus hernia. So again, it's not an isolated thing always. So they may be acidic, but then they need assistance
medical,
with medical help
so
and
go and
that
see
PPI that they spoke about.
So the first port of call is the GP and then the specialist?
Yes, and of
Okay.
course then you have to look at what's causing it. So
Yes.
ultimately a lot of them end up with a scope to determine if there is no other cause, and then based on that modification of diet and also lifestyle. So after you eat, you don't lie down immediately, you wait for about
Okay.
2-3, you wait
Okay.
for your gastric emptying to occur.
Very
You don't
correct.
eat till your fullest, like we mentioned in the introduction of our program, and then the quality of the food, and then the mixture of the food in terms of the variety.
Okay, 56-year-old suffering from varicose veins. What can I do to remove them, and which food can I eat to improve my blood circulation?
So that's mostly that circulation, but
Yeah.
also that's quite genetic. But it depends. Is the person very overweight?
Yes.
Is there any blood flow issues? Is there any? It could be a number of things. And I know of some people that have had them surgically removed, but they do reoccur. So I mean, I'm not too sure what causes.
There are new modalities of treatment, so they must consult with their doctor,
Okay.
where there's long-term benefit with the new treatments.
But any foods that
They need
point
to
out
stay.
to?
Yeah, they need to stay very hydrated. They
Okay.
need to make sure that they nourishing their bodies with the right kinds of foods. They need to be active. Activity
Yeah,
helps
that'll be
a
like
lot,
general
motion.
principles,
Yeah,
eh?
just
Yeah.
normal.
So again, Crohn's disease, painful when passing motion,
Sure.
white flour, bread rolls, yeast, is it a no-no?
Anything, the general rule of thumb is anything that's white is a no-no. So if you are,
processed, yeah.
Look, I know it sounds like I'm being pedantic. If you're getting into your car and you drive into the supermarket and you're going to buy a bread, buy a bread that's in its most natural form.
Yeah.
I mean, you're spending money. Brown bread is a little bit cheaper than white bread. It's best to toast it because it burns out most of the gluten. So
And there's like a R1 difference, I
there's a
think.
$1 difference. The same with this organic thing that we keep talking about. You're going to go buy a sandwich for almost 50 Rand, but you can buy an organic free-range chicken for 85 Rand and feed 4 people. So if you're looking at it spherically, it's not hard to make the right decision. I just don't think we want to.
Yeah, so there's this thing that's holding us back, and we want to talk more and more about that. But, that's the psychology of man and a show on its own. What foods do you avoid bone density in women? I don't know what bone density is referring to.
It
So
means-
they're trying to refer to osteoporosis,
Okay.
I think, if
Yeah,
that's where I
maybe that's
understand
an
the
issue.
question.
it's
Is it a calcium issue?
calcium issue. It does happen as women age, but it
Get
doesn't mean
older.
that they have to suffer.
Correct, yeah.
Then the doctor knows this better probably than what I do.
Yeah.
When I have a person of a certain age coming to me, almost always it's a part of age, but it doesn't mean that they need to suffer. If you look at it always, it's a lot of the time diet. They're not eating correctly. They're not moving enough. But I mean, the doctor knows more
Yeah, and
about
there's
me.
issues about exercise combined with what you eat. And then depending at what point they've developed that osteoporosis.
He's correct.
So you've got to start a bit early before your menopause.
Prevention.
And do your
Yeah.
well woman
Yeah.
health type of screening.
Okay, reason for uric acid. What are the foods that can and cannot be eaten?
High uric acid levels, anything that's industrialized, anything with a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, need to stay hydrated. People think if they're having 5 cups of coffee and 2 small bottles of water, they're staying hydrated. They're not. A lot of the people are in a slight dehydrated state most of the day. And it could be, sorry, go ahead, doctor.
Yeah, I know, and your big culprits obviously are your protein foods, like your meat. And then, of course, alcohol is a big promoter
that's why
of
it's-
uric
Okay.
acid. Yeah.
We have Mohammed Noor from Cape Town. He says he has some etching on my one side of the body itching. It's just coming to me sometimes. Can you explain to me what to do? I'm watching the program right now. Okay, Mohammed Noor.
Hi. It could be a skin, it could be psoriasis, it could be eczema. The doctor knows this better than I
There's
do.
too
You'll
little
have to-
details.
too little
There's,
information, Mohammed.
information.
You
Yeah.
must go see a dermatologist, I think, is
Or
the
you just
best.
go to your GP and see what's happening there in terms of,
And
and if
any-
it's a recent onset, if it's a long-term thing, if it's something.
Okay, we have to wrap up. I wanna sort of end off with going the healthy route, organic, and understanding that it's not really that expensive. So
It's not really that expensive. Just remember that a lot of serious illnesses like cancers and so on come from a body being in a disrupted state, obese, bad eating habits. It's not true. If you're going to make the effort to spend money, look at it spherically. Spend the extra R1.50 or the R2.50 for the right kind of foods in their most natural state, and save yourself a lifetime of suffering and just not being able to turn the clock back.
Doc?
So we're talking about food, obviously. So we know that the outbreak of coronavirus, people haven't known washing their hands.
You're right, he's right.
And also covering your food with the correct utensils. And
Yes,
again, in
the
the
flies,
teachings of
mosquitoes,
from the
yeah.
Prophet ﷺ that you got to practice basic hygiene. So we're not only talking about
But
the
food,
food itself,
yeah.
but what you do with
So
the food.
correct.
So it's a whole
Combination,
issue.
lifestyle,
that.
lifestyle change. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next week. Shukran, Dr. Yaqub. Thanks so much, Eleni. We'll see you again. All the
Thank
best.
you so much.
Remember, you can catch this and any of the shows on our YouTube channel. This is Health Matters. I'm Khawa Salman. Wassalamu alaikum. And shukran so much for being part of it. Have a good evening.